Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining our weekly 30-minute webinar. My name is Victor Verba, and I'll be your host for today's session. Today, I'm joined by my good friend and colleague, Mr. Jim Schultens. Jim, how's everything going today?
Oh, it's going fantastic, Vic. Excited for this webinar today. The team's reporting.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is an exciting week for us over here at Variphy as we kind of get ready to release our support for MS Teams Analytics. Which is targeted to drop tomorrow afternoon. So keep your eye out for that guy. In preparation for that release, which again scheduled to come out tomorrow, Jim's going to be taking us through. Jim's going to kind of taking us back to basics a little bit, walking us through how to get started with Variphy and MS Teams phone reporting. So let's go ahead and start off with a quick agenda here. First, we'll start off with a quick overview of our company. And what we do. Then we'll jump into a live demo where Jim's going to guide us through how to use Variphy for MS Teams reporting. We'll pause for some Q&A. So during the demo, if you have any questions, please make sure you ask them use the Q&A button up at the top of your screen there. After Q&A, we'll reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card. So make sure you hang around and see if you won. Just a quick overview of Variphy. Variphy is the preferred analytics and management solution for all your migration or ongoing collaboration needs. We are deployable either on-prem or as a hosted cloud solution. We provide industry-leading call manager, Cube, UCCX, Zoom Phone, WebEx calling, and as of tomorrow, you'll notice a new little guy over here, MS Teams Analytics, along with a host of other Cisco call manager related tools like remote phone control, change management, DN/DID management, and more. We are like the multi-tool in your collaboration tool belt. So if you have any questions on any of our other features, please feel free to contact us at support@variphy.com, or you can reach out to your customer success manager at success@variphy.com. One more thing before we do kick things off, Variphy does offer an enhanced consulting service. This is a service where an SE engages with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, report building, dashboard configuration, system monitoring assistance. This is a service that actually provides you a dedicated engineer to do all the heavy lifting for you and your organization, giving you really stress-free, hands-off experience with Variphy. If you want any additional information about our ECS service or any of our additional services, please, again, feel free to reach out to your success manager at success@variphy.com, and I'm sure we'll be glad to speak with you to see if ECS is a good fit for your organization. So with all that said, if you're new to Variphy or new to MS Teams reporting, sit back, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the ride. I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball over to you, Jim.
All right, Vic. All right, thank you for joining us for today's session. Like Vic did say, today I'm going to be going over the basics of getting started with reporting on Teams data. He also said we're really excited to get this released tomorrow afternoon, so hopefully this is helpful to you. So even though this is focused on MS Teams data, most of what I'll cover today also applies to our other platforms. So you may be familiar with some of this, may be new to you. So we do offer other platforms for reporting. So like I said, most of the stuff I will go over today does apply to that as well. All right, yeah, let's get started. As you can see, I'm in the Teams tenant here. If Teams is your only platform, you won't see this gear icon, but since this is a lab and I've got multiple platforms, I can change platforms. This allows me to do reporting on Cubes, UCM, WebEx, Zoom, and any platforms that I do have here for reporting. This being the history screen. That's a great advantage of Variphy. If you're a hybrid, you've got Cisco Call Manager and you're integrating Teams now, you can have both on one pane of glass. So it makes reporting easier all on one system. All right, so I'm going to head on over to the right side of the screen here and just cover some basics here. This profile or my account icon allows you to do some things for reporting as well as change your password. It gives you the ability to, if you do have multiple platforms, to choose what you're going to see when you first log in. I've got my team's call analytics feature. For this first release of 16.0, it will only be call analytics. We'll be adding the dashboards in 16.1 coming out shortly. This one, we're just going to have the call analytics. Default platform is MS Teams tenant, and I can set my preferred time zone. And the call history search type, this allows you to change what's going to display first in that history screen as your default search type. This was added not too long ago. It gives some flexibility to all our platforms, basically, to allow you to tailor it to your needs. And I'll show you that in a second here. And then scrolling on down, it's got the same for all the platforms, different label sets. Briefly, what label sets are, that allows you to change headers for the reports. For instance, we may use calling party as a header, and you want to use caller. It makes more sense to your users. So you can create a label set, change calling party to caller, and that will show up, the caller will show up on the report. So it gives you some flexibility in reporting there. All right. So staying on the right side of the screen here, this main history screen, this data summary button. This is useful sometimes in troubleshooting, or if you want to see what kind of available data you have. You want to know, hey, can I run a report for January of this year? Well, in this case, I can't because my available data is February 15th when we stood up the Teams environment in our lab to current. So I do have current data for today. So this gives you a quick look at what my available data is for running reports on. Heading on over to sync data. Some of you that are familiar with our other platforms have seen this as well. As you know, some of the CDR data we get is, well, it doesn't include everything that we report on. For instance, for Teams, we don't get department. Believe it or not, we don't get phone number in the CDR. Teams is more user-based, so we're going to get the username. But we do have the ability to sync that data, the department, for instance, or your phone number or your team, different information that you can sync to a user to make your reports more flexible. So this, we recommend scheduling this on a nightly basis. So it just goes out there and syncs all the data to the correct users and gives you more flexibility with your reporting. Data visibility, I'm an administrator, so it's just going to tell me, yeah, I'm an administrator. I can basically see everything here. All right. So in this history screen, we're going to go through this. You'll notice I've got sequence and events as a choice here. What this is basically the difference between, if you're familiar with other platforms, cradle to grave or total call history, or just the events or just one single leg. So having it on sequence, I'm going to see the whole call as it traverses through the system, whether it was transferred, whether it went to an auto attendant and then they made a selection, or whether it went to a call queue and who answered that call. Or I could just put it on events and I'll just see that particular leg that I'm searching for. I'll show you the difference in a minute here. Sort direction, basically, defaults to descending. You can change that to ascending if you'd like. And then, here, like I was showing before in that profile, this is the default search type that I selected, calling or called party. So, and you'll notice the show historical options. This does allow you to report on users that may have been deleted from the system. So it gives you some history on deleters that are no longer with your organization. And that is indicated, I think we've got one in here, yeah. There is a flag icon that tells you that this user, in this case a call queue, was deleted. So you can run reports on the old information there by doing that. So I'm going to, if you notice, this call party user is a pick list. So it grabs that information from your Teams tenant. And so I'm going to, just for friends, I'm going to choose me and Victor. And let's run a report. So this is for today. There are a couple calls today for us. but I don't want to see today. How do I change my date range? I go up here to my calendar box here and allows me to pick a new time frame. So the default would be current day. And it starts kind of in the middle here. And as you scroll down, you're going to get further, previous day, current and previous day, then weeks, and then months. We even go to quarters and also year to date. And if I go up, it moves into the hours, last 17 hours, last 12 hours, and so forth. Or these top two, I can pick a specific date and time. So here it allows me to choose a specific date range I can choose. This other one, go back in there. This allows me to choose a specific date range, and I can choose time. If I'm only open from 8 to 5 or 9 to 6, I can just specify that, and that's what my reporting will be between those hours. Or I can exclude hours as well. All right. So let's go back in here and change this to current or previous week. I know I've got more data in for previous week. Yep, 26 calls. And remember, I've got it set on sequence. So when I view these results, notice I've got a plus here. That means there's other calls to this, other sessions in this call. And if you notice, we search for my name or Victor's name in the calling party or called party field, username field. This particular call does not have that, but if I expand that out, you'll see there is a leg with that. That's why this call is included, because Victor did end up answering this call. All right. So notice I've got 26 calls. This counts as one call. This whole scenario is just one call in this count of 26. If I change this to events and go and view my results, then I've got 28. And notice I don't have the plus. It's just showing me the events that matched my search criteria. Victor, myself, in the calling party, and then I think I've got one down here. Yeah, there's a few here with me as the called party. So that matches my search, and that's why these show up here. So great way to, this history screen and page is a great way to see, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. Is this what I'm expecting? That's the results I'm expecting. Great. Change this back to sequences. And one other thing I want to point out while we're here is something that if you notice, this call date time origination on all these legs on here, it's all the same time. You may have noticed that with call manager as well, where the call date time origination, it's always the same. Kind of confusing because we know that call didn't start at that exact hour or time for everybody. And same with the duration field. Duration, this is basically showing the overall duration. What makes more sense is to put the session date time in there. So this gives you the date time origination for that particular session. What time did this leg come into the call? So it gives you more flexibility. Same with duration, gives you the duration for that particular leg of the call. So I don't want to see this or this in my report, or not, I want to see the session. I don't want to see the call date time origination or call duration. So how do I do that? I go up to the show hide columns here, and this is all the columns that I'm showing currently. So all I have to do is choose that and choose my duration and move it over. And that what that does by hitting the minus, it moves it over on this side. As you can see, there's a lot of data to choose from to show on your detail columns. It's kind of ordered, like all your date times are here, originating party information, the calling party, tons of stuff in here. Most of it probably won't be used. A lot of this gets synced over, so it's not if it's not configured in your Teams admin center, then it won't show up, or basically it'll be blanks here. So there is a lot to report on here, whether it's applicable to you, that we'll have to see once you get the data going. And then we've got terminating party information, duration. You can report your duration in seconds or hours, minutes, seconds. Again, session, and it also has segment. I found that the segment and session are usually the same, so I usually pick the session duration, hours, minutes, seconds. So a whole bunch of other stuff, call identifiers, miscellaneous stuff, and then there are some call quality. I'm not going to go over every one of these. Obviously, that'll take up most of the day. We will have knowledge base articles on most of this stuff, kind of explaining what these fields are. So the important point is here, you can add or remove fields by moving from left to right, or remove from right to left. All right. So I've got this data. Great, looks good. Can't really do much with this. Can't send this to somebody that's looking for this data, from this screen. So what do? I could create a new report, or I can use this export results button. Click that. That kind of puts me in the reporting section. So from here, what you can do is you can save this report for future use. What this is going to do when you run the report, it's going to automatically save it in the report section and allow you to use it later. So you can save it. I would recommend, if you're going to do that, give it a name. This is the default call, history export. Give it a name that makes sense so you can find that report again. And from here, if you go into search sets, you'll notice calling, this is what I chose on my history screen. So this is what the report's going to show. You don't have to recreate the wheel, what you did over in history. It's already automatically imported into here for you if you export those results. And then I'm going to bounce back over down here to search set statistics. So based on my search set, the users, myself and Victor, what do I want to see? What summary values do I want to see, or statistics? In this case, I've got total call count, peer-to-peer call count, group call count. So call will either be peer-to-peer or group call. Basically, the difference is peer-to-peer is basically two entities involved in the call. Group call is usually more than two entities. So for instance, if I just called Vic directly, that's a peer-to-peer call. If I made an outbound call to my wife, that would be a peer-to-peer call. If the call came in through a queue or through an auto attendant, that's an entity. A caller went to the auto attendant, then went to Victor. Turns it into a group call. And then we've got some duration stats that we can show, either total average call duration and total call duration. Same with the history. As with the history, we've got a bunch of different things you can choose. You can do percentages. You can do different things for call durations, video call count, percentage, screen share. You can get counts on the screen shares, connected, not connected, answered, voicemail. So a lot of different things you can do for the stats on that. And again, that's for the search set, because we're tying the search set stats to what was in your search set. Actually, I'm going to make a slight change. Instead of calling user, I'm going to pick on department. We can run reports on department, provided that the department information is filled in your team's environment. So I'm going to pick technical support department, and same thing. All my search set stats will be based on that tech support department. And then the nice thing from there, what I can do is do some grouping. What grouping is another layer of summarization. And if I turn this on, I can group. So I've got a department. I've got some people in that department. I want to see the stats for the department. And I also want to see the stats for each person in that department. So I could do it by day and date and year. So how many calls are being placed or received from that department based on day or date of the year. Or I can choose calling or called party name. So I can group it or summarize those results by who's making or receiving those calls in my department. Some of these primary grouping types do allow you to choose a secondary based on what you choose here. I'm just going to leave it at primary for now. The sort grouping by, you can do it alphabetically or numerically by name or label, or highest to lowest call count, or you could do call duration highest to lowest. We usually like to use call count highest to lowest, kind of gives you your top performers at the top. And then down here, grouping summary, same thing as with the group search set stats. You can choose what you want to see as far as stats for those individual users of your department. And down here, grouping stats and scenarios, I'm going to bounce back to search sets statistics. They're basically the same. It's whether you want to do it on your main search set, in this case, my department, or my users, which is grouping, or you can do it on both. In this case, I'm going to just show, and these are period over period stats. So for every hour of the day, or I could do quarter hour, half hour, day, a week, depending on what you're going to run this report for. I want to see the stats for my department for every hour of the day, and I want to see total count. That's going to be in a data table. I can also choose a volume table, a scenario volume table, and I'll show you basically. I'm going to choose day of week, total calls, and then if you're more of a graphical person, you want to see charts, you can choose this volume charts option, and hour of day, total calls. That is, the output must be either PDF or HTML. It won't show a graph in Excel. So going down the list here on the left-hand side, call history details. This is basically the same as we saw on that history screen. All the details, I can add or remove columns as I want. Or you can turn this off. If I don't want to see all the details, I can turn it. It'll just basically be a summary report. Start to finish, that's our also known as cradle to grave. And you can turn that on. I did start this report from the history screen, which had the sequences selected, so that automatically turns this on. I can turn that off if I don't want to see all the call legs in that, which would basically make it event-based report. And then my report delivery. How do I want this delivered? Like I said, PDF or HTML for charts and graphs, or for the graphical representation. One thing with the PDF though is if you are going to have call the history details and you're going to have more than, I believe, 10 of them, it's going to cut off anything. PDF isn't very nice about displaying all the columns if it's over more than 10 of them. So what I like to do is change that to HTML if I'm going to have a lot of details in my report. And how do you want that report delivered? You want to download it locally. You can email it. If you've got WebEx chat bot set up, you can use a chat. We do have a knowledge base article on how to set that up if interested. If you've got an FTP server you can send it to, you can do that, or the repository. I'll get to the repository in a second here. I'm going to choose to download it, and sure, I'm going to uncheck this. I don't want to save for future use. So when I run it, if I did have that save for future use, when I do run it, it will automatically save that report. So let's go through this just real brief. This is the only report I'm going to show you results from, because I believe Vic is doing a more in-depth report webinar next week. So you'll have that to look forward to. Hey, so
no sneak peek, Jim.
Oh, putting you on the spot, Vic. Yeah, so my search was technical support department. So these are my stats for my department overall, 28 calls. And then I grouped it or summarized it by the users. So in this case, it's just Vic and myself. And we've got 15 calls for me, 13 for Vic, total of 28. Again, you can pick and choose what else you display as part of the summary. And then scrolling down here, Here's our call scenario volume part portion, where it kind of gives you some different scenarios for these stats. And I remember I picked day of week for this particular one, so average count per day of week was 4 calls. High per day, I had 7. Total duration and the averages. And then down here, this is the chart for hourly. So you can see, a lot of zeros here until I get to 8 a.m. So from 8 to 5, basically. And when you run the report, like it was shown before, you can choose a specific time range to run the report. It'll get rid of these zeros. So you basically just have one of these shown from 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 or 9 to 5, whatever your hours are. If it's more than 12 hours, it does break it up into 2 different sections here. So again, graphical. If you're more of a graphical person, you don't want to look at these charts. This is easier to look at. Say, hey, at the 2 o'clock hour, I had 7 calls. Do I need to get more staff in this department to take those 7 calls, or can they handle those? So great way to check on productivity in your department or whatever you're that report for. Details. As I scroll on down, these are all the call details. And remember in the history screen, we had a plus bar. We can expand that out. We don't have that here, but we do have the related call section if you have the cradle to grave or start to finish enabled. If there are related calls, it gives you this link. Clicking on that link will take you down to the cradle to grave section. This is the particular call I clicked on. The colored row basically means this particular leg or event matched my search set, which was the department. All these other legs or events don't have that department filled in, but they are still part of this one call. Great way to kind of see where the calls are going or where they came from and where they went after the department. All right. I know I'm running short on time, so I'm going to go back into here. The report section, and this is where, if I would have saved that report for future use, it would show up here. So this is where all your saved reports are going to show up. From here, you can run a report, you can edit it, copy a report. This is great for templates. You'll notice here I've got some templates. We will have these available on our website shortly. Great way to get started with, some basic reporting. So you can download these. Once you download them, it's going to be in a zip form. You unzip them, and then you can import them using this. If you hover over this Create Teams report, click on Import, browse to where you unzip those two, and that'll automatically import into your system here. All right. Yeah, so a lot you could do here. You can copy, if you've got a department report, you can make a copy of it to have it and then change the department to other departments, so you can have the same report copied multiple times for a different department. Real quick, I'll go into schedules. You can't schedule reports. You can schedule them to run, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and do that. You just basically click on Create Schedule, give it a name, hit this drop down to choose a report to run, and what days of the week how often do you want to run it? You want to run it by day, hourly. Careful with hourly with MS Teams reports. We don't get the data in timely fashion all the time, so I'm going to stick with day of the week or monthly reports for those. Allows you to run a report at the first of the month for the previous month. I can choose my search time window here. Again, I can go to previous month for a monthly report and how I want that report delivered. Very similar to what we saw before. All right, my voice is going, Vic. Do we have any questions? I'm about done here.
All right, Jim. We did have a couple of questions came in direct. One of them I think you just answered, and that was, can the reports be sent automatically? So thank you for hitting on that. The other question that did come in was, can we restrict the data that someone else sees?
Yes.
So I think they're predominantly talking about the user access restriction. So yeah, Jim, I'll save you your voice there a little bit. Can go ahead and set up restrictions to restrict what data someone has visibility into. We'll get into that in a different webinar.
Yep.
All right. So Jim, those are the only two questions. If there are any other questions, please make sure to get those in the chat panel or the Q&A panel on the upper menu bar. But with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and steal control from you here,
right,
Jim. We appreciate everybody taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us. Feel free. We'd love to have you attend next week's session, where our host Dre Devak and myself, we're going to be walking you through some MS Team reporting essentials, covering a little bit of what Jim covered today, but also delving into some other reports. So please, if you please make sure to join us next week, same time. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks all.